sbagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tacco, tiro, gol! Grosso, gol di Grosso, manca un minuto, gol di Grosso.
Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul, and I'm delighted to say we've got a 3-2 win over Chievo to discuss on the pod today. Apologies to all for not having a pod up on Thursday after the defeat to Arsenal. For those who follow me on Twitter know that I was at the game. Great support from the travelling fans. They really created a great atmosphere. Didn't get the result that we wanted. I think we've all had a few days now to kind of calm down from the Welbeck dive and just to process the defeat. It is a shame that we couldn't go further, but that does mean that focus is now all on Serie A for the top 4 finish and the Coppa Italia final. So let's try and make the most of the season and hopefully end it with some success and something to show for our efforts. But in terms of today's game, I think we started really brightly. I really enjoyed the opening sort of 10 minutes or so. Obviously culminated in the opener from Hakan Calhanoglu. I think the way that we approached it, we got it spot on. You know, we were playing with a fast tempo. We were zipping the ball around. We were making Chievo move around the pitch. In the last few weeks, we've seen our performances kind of try and slow everything down, let the opposition settle into a defensive, compact sort of unit. But today that was completely not the case. We did get stunned by those 2 quick-fire goals, and even after the second goal went in, I think there was a feeling, for me especially, but also the feedback that I got on Twitter, that we weren't out of the game. There was obviously room for us to exploit and to create openings and opportunities, which we did. Thankfully, we got 2 goals, Cutrone getting the all-important equaliser, and then, of course, Andre Silva coming off the bench yet again to score a winner. So, all-round, positives outweigh the negatives, I'd say. I think there was a little dip. We got a little bit too comfortable after going ahead, but I was certainly happy with the performance overall. We definitely dominated possession for the most part, created our chances, and, all importantly, we took 3 of them to get 3 points. Massive in terms of looking at the results around us as well. Atalanta winning, Inter winning very handsomely against Sampdoria. I expect Lazio to beat Bologna tonight. So, and Roma winning, of course, as well. So all the teams around us won, and it was imperative that we followed suit, and fortunately we did. So happy with the result. Not overly happy with the performance. I think, you know, you expect us to be a bit more convincing at home against Chievo. Games against Inter and Juve coming up, we definitely have to improve. But for what it's worth at the moment, for in terms of the circumstances, definitely take the win, bounce back from that Arsenal defeat, and let's hope we can kick on. Manager rating out of 10 to start with. Not for the first time this season. It looks like Gattuso's halftime team talk worked wonders. I think, again, like I mentioned, we started the game off really well, really impressed with the tempo that we were playing at. I've got to assume that's Gattuso giving them the instructions to move the ball quicker. He was upset with the way that we played in the previous game prior to Arsenal, just in terms of how we were slow and making mistakes. So I think he's certainly addressed that in this one. But yeah, the halftime team talk, we came out 2-1 down, got the early goal in the second half, which kind of kicked us on to get the winner. I had to wait for it, but man management, changes off the bench. I think Gattuso's getting things spot on, and I don't really want to talk too much about him getting the job for a longer period. I think I don't want to curse him between now and the end of the season. I'd like to see him finish the season, see where we are, and then give him a contract and assess it from there. But overall, really impressed with Gattuso's influence on this one. I did mention on Twitter as well after the game that I feel like under previous coaches, I think we probably would have lost this game. Just him firing us up, getting the changes right, everything about him, I think he's spot on at the moment. So Gattuso, 7 out of 10, fantastic work from him. On to the player ratings, starting with Donnarumma, of course. I've given him a 6. I don't really think he's culpable for either goal. Couldn't have done much to deny Chievo on either occasion. Stayed alert throughout the game. There was one where he had to come out and punch and got good distance on it. Obviously, he was under pressure after that mistake at Arsenal, so good to see him be confident enough to come out and claim and take control of his area. But overall, didn't have a great deal to do, so I've given him a 6 out of 10. Barini, unfortunately, gets a 5 out of 10 from me. I think we've all praised him for his versatility this season. We've seen him pop up right wing, left wing, right back. I think he may even have had a go at left back as well at some point. But on this occasion, I think he kind of started to look a bit more exposed. Fantastic first touch from Giaccherini for the opening goal, but I think Barini could have done better. He definitely misjudged the flight of the ball, went over his head and kind of left the opening there behind him. So 5 out of 10 for Barini. Probably maybe a little bit harsh, but yeah, definitely caught out on this occasion. I think the right back experiment with him has to end sooner or later, and hopefully Conte comes back in the coming weeks. Bonucci gets a 6 out of 10. I think he was sloppy with his passing at times, and I don't think he looked as assured as he has been with Romagnoli next to him, so I think that's a compliment to Romagnoli for sure. But I think he did still try to lead by example at the back. He broke forward, trying to make things happen on occasion, but overall, I think defensively he was sound enough. I don't think he was as good as he has been in recent weeks, but good enough for a 6 out of 10 for me, so I've gone for a 6. Zapata, unfortunately, gets a 5 out of 10. I do see the logic behind Gattuso's decision to start him. I know there was a lot of criticism even before the game, seeing Zapata's name on the starting lineup. But I think with his pace, I think it was a sensible decision to kind of start him, to kind of cope and cover the counter-attacks from Chievo, because we were going to dominate possession in this game. They did look a threat on the counter-attack, and I think Zapata's pace was probably what got him into the team for Gattuso. So unfortunately, I don't think he did particularly great. He had a decent start to the game, but I just don't think he was commanding enough in the box. He was kind of sticking out a leg to make clearances, and even in the build-up to the first goal, kind of just stuck a leg out there and didn't really make a proper attempt to clear it. If Romagnoli was playing, maybe that didn't go in, but Zapata, a little bit disappointed with him, so I've given him a 5 out of 10. Ricardo Rodriguez gets a 6. I think it's an ongoing similar story with the Swiss international. He looks decent enough defensively. I think he does everything he has to do with minimal fuss. But there's just not enough courage, not enough inventiveness with him when the ball's at his feet. I think there was a couple of people mentioned on Twitter, he just seems to be falling into this pattern of taking the ball forward a few yards and then checking back and either giving it to Biglia or going back to Romagnoli or Bonucci, or trying to just ship it off to Calhanoglu and making an overlapping run. I think we need to see more from him going forward. He does have it in his locker. Even at the start of the season, I think we all praised him for being technically gifted and being able to offer more of an attacking threat down the left. His crossing has been amazing earlier in the campaign, but we're not seeing any of it anymore. So I don't know whether that's an instruction from Gattuso, whether that's just a lack of confidence from Rodriguez, but overall, very disappointing from an offensive point of view, but 6 out of 10 because he does a good shift defensively still, so decent enough for me. Kessie gets a 6 out of 10. I've kind of bowed to a bit of pressure from opposing websites. I've gone for a 6. I initially went for a 5, but maybe that was a little bit too harsh because he did play a massive hand in the opening goal, forcing that opening for Calhanoglu. But look, I think we're always going to rate him highly in terms of work rate, in terms of physicality, and the offensive threat that he offers when he breaks forward with those marauding runs up front. But he just doesn't show enough composure for me in the final third. There was one instance where he had time and space. He even steadied himself to deliver a ball into the box. I don't actually know what he went for in the end, whether it was supposed to be a shot or a cross, but it sailed out of play for a goal kick. And that just kind of typifies Kessie for me in the final third. I think he can be better, as we saw with the opening goal, but he's not consistent and not composed enough in the final third. And that area of his game really needs to improve, because the link-up play between him and Suso was fantastic. They created so many openings for each other. It was great to see, but again, just not enough composure for Kessie, and obviously missed the penalty late on as well. So fortunately, that didn't cost us. And it's kind of obvious where in his game he needs to improve. But 6 out of 10 for Kessie. As I mentioned, I did almost go with a 5, but I think it's a little bit harsh to go that low, so I've given him a 6. Biglia also gets a 6. I think, again, he's going to split opinion. I kind of almost sway towards a 5 with him as well, but ultimately, he's got the job title of being a holding midfielder, and he does that very, very well in terms of breaking play up, starting attacks, providing that defensive shield in front of the back line. I think he does all those things really, really well, but he just doesn't inspire me to do any more. His passing is so simple, doesn't look to do much apart from ship it off to other players. And to his defence, in his defence, perhaps that's probably the most sensible thing to do. If you've got Giacomo Bonaventura next to you, you've got Kessie, you've got Calhanoglu and Suso on the wings, you are probably going to ship it off to those guys and let them do something because that's their strength. But for me, Biglia just needs to be a bit more of a driving force in that midfield position. He needs to do a little bit more, and then I will be fully on board with him and praise him as being a top signing. But for me, just too simple, not enough inventiveness, and just very steady is how I describe Biglia's performances. But good enough for a 6 for me. So again, decent enough. Unfortunately, I've had to give Jack Bonaventura a 5. I think the intensity and the determination were there from him. Off the ball, he was working hard, as he always does. He was a little bit unlucky on a couple of occasions, because I do feel as though he had a couple of great opportunities, but they were taken away from him. But then that comes back to him. I think he was giving the shout to his teammates to leave it for him to take on, and that cost us because he was in some great positions, and we've seen him finish in those positions before this season. But too quiet for me, not enough influence or impact on the game, so I've had to give him a 5 out of 10. Suso, I've given a 7 out of 10. Not as effective or decisive as he has been, but I think the majority of our most dangerous situations came down the right flank with him and Kessie linking up. I think he's always looking to make something happen. On one side, you could argue that's really frustrating when it doesn't come off. You're kind of looking at him and thinking maybe he's being too wasteful, but I've got to give credit to him because he's just still got that confidence and that drive and determination to make something happen, and that's probably played into why I've given him a 7 out of 10. So potentially a little bit too generous, but leave your comments and let me know about what you think about Suso and everyone else's performances. Cutrone gets a 7 out of 10 as well. I think he battled away up top by himself really well. Showed different elements to his game in terms of picking it up deep and running at defenders and linking play up. I think he needs to do more of that. He's kind of slipping into this category of being a poacher. Don't get me wrong, he does that really well, as we've seen. Right place, right time yet again to tap in the equaliser after Biglia's shot. So again, credit for him for that. He's obviously got that natural talent, that instinct in the box to be in the right place to get those finishes. But I'd like to see him offer a different kind of threat up front as well, because I think defenders can, I wouldn't say can easily mark him out of a game, because he's obviously scoring goals this season. I think that's 15 overall now. So he's obviously got the secret to getting goals, but I'd just like to see a bit more of a different element to his game, a bit more of a different dynamic. So let's see if that happens. But overall, 7 out of 10 for Cutrone. Delighted to see him on the score sheet yet again. And then my man of the match, Hakan Calhanoglu, I've given an 8. I don't remember giving 8s out that often, but in terms of his performance compared to everyone else's, with Suso and Cutrone in mind, I think he was that little bit better than those two. Obviously got the breakthrough with the composed finish. Second goal in 2 games, following on from that strike against Arsenal. And I think he was just really important to our build-up play for the whole game. He worked hard defensively throughout the game as well. Gave us that trademark Calhanoglu sliding tackle, which was a great sight. And overall, really good shift for the team. Worked hard defensively, decisive in the offensive phase. So overall, really happy with Calhanoglu. Continues to improve, continues to grow in confidence. So I've had to give him an 8 out of 10. But I think the only criticism I would say, and it was picked up on Twitter by a few of the followers, was that he does tend to be a little bit too selfish on occasion. He needs to find that balance between playing those killer passes and being the guy to take on the responsibility to take a shot. So if he can find that balance, then fantastic. He's going to be an absolutely star for us, but really happy with his improvement. Substitutes, Andre Silva, giving him a 7. Looks like his luck is finally turning. The ball landing at his feet, good composed finish, obviously pretty easy for a striker of his quality, but again, in the right place at the right time, similarly to Cutrone for the equaliser, and it's great to see him getting on the score sheet, being decisive. That's 6 points he's basically won for us now with 2 winning goals. So yeah, all about the luck. Definitely changed for him. You know, he couldn't even get close to some situation like that through that barren run that he had, but definitely delighted to see him get another goal. And Masakio came on too late to get a rating, but arguably should have started instead of Zapata. Showed late on with his solid defending and his runs forward that he's a top quality player. And I had a lot of people questioning it on Twitter as well as to why he wasn't starting. So I think he's probably delivered the best answer to Gattuso in that sense, that he's the man for the job if Romagnoli or Bonucci is missing. So no rating for Masakio, but definitely an impressive cameo performance from him. On to your Twitter comments, starting with @TheMilanisti11. So glad Silva scored again. So glad to see him full of confidence and Kalinic left on the team bus. However, I'm getting concerned about Rodriguez, who never seems to have the tenacity to try and beat his man, always just runs forward 2 yards and passes it back. Thoughts? That was the point that I raised earlier. It was Milanisti11 who brought that up on Twitter. Rodriguez, yeah, I can't quite put my finger on what it is, as I spoke to Milanisti11 about. He's in a winning team. The crowd aren't exactly getting on his back every time he's in possession. So there's no real need for him to panic or be so sloppy on the ball or not to try more. So I can't see it being a confidence thing, whether it's a tactic from Gattuso that he doesn't want that being the outlet for us down the left, I don't know. But there certainly is something holding Rodriguez back in that in that element of his game. So if he can snap out of it and do more, then fantastic. But whether or not we see that is another question, because we've been kind of picking on this for a couple of weeks now and even months maybe. So Whether or not he improves in that regard remains to be seen, but we'll have to wait and see. At Joe for Milan, Zapata played. We conceded goals. What do you expect? Yeah, I mean, I kind of took exception with this a little bit. Definitely Zapata didn't fill me with confidence, and he was sloppy in the goals and has to take responsibility and blame to an extent. But I do feel as though it's a little bit harsh to pick on him solely. I think we could have defended better as a whole in the back line. Chievo got down the wings for both goals, so it's not like it was a direct one-on-one situation with Zapata where he bottled it, but I certainly see your point. If Romagnoli was playing, then perhaps it would be a completely different story. So yeah, unfortunate for Zapata, but don't expect him to be in the team when we come back from the international break anyway. At Precious Mowgli, apart from on Pro Evolution Soccer, I don't want to see Zapata on the pitch. Romagnoli is needed back in the lineup. Calabria, all Conti should get back to playing as soon as possible. Confidence is growing for Silva. Kalinic should remain frozen out, and the team's fighting spirit is great. I think it's a ongoing theme from the comments. We'll see again in the next one that Kalinic should remain out of the team. Completely spot on with that, and great to see confidence growing with Silva. I think these goals are going to do him a world of good. They have been missing from his game. He's been doing a decent job for us off the bench. I do feel as though there have been positives to take away from his performance, but for him, scoring goals is what matters, and I definitely think he can go from strength to strength now in the coming weeks. Definitely pushing Kalinic down the pecking order as well, so fantastic news on that front. At Samir Mohammed 72, amazing game. Needed this after Arsenal. Great start, but those 2 goals put us down. Thank God today the guys played with great tempo. Zapata started well, then played badly later on. Hakan and Suso were great, and Ricardo Rodriguez was good, but Barini was lacking. Our late match winner Silva has done it again. So happy for the guy. He works hard in training, unlike someone else. Wink, wink. I think that's Kalinic, and got the goal. Please talk about Kalinic and the Gattuso situation. Yeah, just to break this down then, Samir, amazing game, absolutely, very entertaining. Great to get the 3 points, which was what mattered. Absolutely crucial to get it after the Arsenal defeat, so really good way to bounce back and build confidence again. Yeah, the tempo was a massive thing for me. I'm glad you spotted that, because I think, especially from the start of the game, from minute 1, even off the ball, we were pressing really high, trying to win the ball back. We were passing the ball really quickly, none of this 2-3 touches, and then going back between the defensive line, sideways passing. It was all really direct and really quick, so that was really good to see. Zapata, agreed with your assessment, and Hakan and Suso were great. Rodriguez was good, yeah, but again, just the limitations, need to see him do more, I think, so we'll see if that happens. But yeah, Barini caught out lacking on this occasion. Match winner from Silva, really happy for him, absolutely. And yeah, let's talk about Kalinic. I think Gattuso's got this absolutely spot on the way that he's dealt with it. He's come out and said that Kalinic disappointed him in training. The effort and sort of approach wasn't right from him. That's why he was left out of the squad. And I think that's fantastic management. I think that sends a message to everyone, not just Kalinic, that if you don't perform in training, you will be dropped and you won't feature. So that keeps everyone on their toes, keeps everyone alive in training and giving their best. So that can only improve the team. In terms of Kalinic himself, I think we've all been screaming out for him to be dropped down the pecking order. It's got to be Cutrone, Silva, Kalinic from now till the end of the season. And I'd even tip the balance between Cutrone and Silva depending on the opposition. So any which way you look at it, Kalinic has got to be at the bottom of that pecking order. If his quality's not there, he's not scoring goals. I think he's got 4 in 30 appearances for us this season. So the record there is atrocious. And if the attitude's gone in training, then there's absolutely no reason why he should even be in the squad, let alone starting lineup or on the bench as the first alternative. So Gattuso did say after the game today that he's not going to bear a grudge. You know, training is training. If he improves next week, then he's going to be back in the squad. So that's fine. Not really got an issue with that. It's probably a kick up the backside that Kalinic needed. But for me, I just don't think he's shown the quality to warrant being a prominent role in the team. So let's hope that this is the final kind of nail in the coffin that he is now at the bottom of the pecking order, but we'll have to wait and see. At the real wide Jeff, Zapata needs to improve form as a backup centre-back, but we clinched a win regardless. It was great to see Musacchio back on the pitch. Hope to see Conti as well. We need Montalivo, Locatelli on the pitch more. Biglia did well today. Just to dissect this a little bit, yeah, Zapata needs to step up his game. Definitely not good enough for a backup option there. Musacchio was definitely impressive in his little cameo appearance, and cannot wait to see Conti back on the pitch. Looks like he's recovering well. He's back in the squad, he's on the bench, so let's hope he can get back in the team as soon as possible. Montalivo, yes, I still don't really back the argument to see more of him. I think even in the Arsenal game, he was a calming and experienced option, but I think he's a little bit off the pace and the game can bypass him a little bit too easily now. So maybe not Montalivo, but Locatelli, I absolutely agree. We should see more of him on the pitch. But Biglia, another decent shift, solid shift from him. So not too much complaints. But again, I'd just like to see a bit more inspiration from him if that's possible. But whether we get that or not is a different matter. Right, guys, that's a wrap for this podcast. Thanks all for listening. Thanks all for your comments as usual. Really do appreciate it. Please leave all your comments on the YouTube video and let me know your thoughts on the ratings, if you disagree, agree, and with any other bigger points from the Arsenal game and from Chievo win as well. International break now, so I'll have a break from the pod. I may try and get Jason out of retirement for a Q&A. So if you've got questions, let me know on Twitter, @MilanTalk1, or on the YouTube comments below. But yeah, not back in action until after the break now. We've got 2 big games coming up against Inter and Juventus, so got to be on the ball when we return. But delighted with the 3 points today. Back on track after the Arsenal defeat. Still in the hunt for the top 4 finish in Serie A with the Coppa Italia final to look forward to. So many plus points still to be considered. Let's hope we can kick on. Enjoy the break, and I shall speak to you soon. Thanks for listening.